Hello, my name is Brayanoski.
And I'm Austin Morales, and you're watching The Inner Gamer On.
And today we'll be talking about Ubisoft is making an open world Star Wars game. It looks like the exclusivity rights with EA are coming to an end, and Ubisoft Massive, makers of The Division, are diving into a really big, epic Star Wars game. So we're talking about what is going to be coming from that and much, much more. So let's see what it's all about.
And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell, and then turn us on for all your notifications, because that's how it works now.
So with that said, I'd like to open the floor up and let's talk about what we want to see with an Ubisoft game. Obviously, coming off of The Division, Austin, I mean, is there anything in particular from having played those two games, and you relatively have enjoyed both of them, more so I think the second one, but like, how do you feel about this versus development studio helming this type of game, and what you kind of expect to see from it, just from like a top level view?
Well, I think it needs to be like AC Valhalla, and if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back to 301. We talk about it. Like I said then, and what I say now for Valhalla is that they've taken a turn, and I think they've taken the Assassin's Creed franchise in a good direction, where it takes itself a lot more seriously, and there's a lot of good elements that make it a really fun game. If they can do something like that and live up to Star Wars, obviously it's going to be different. I think we'll be in a good spot. I'm still worried because it is Ubisoft, but the head guy who was making a lot of decisions for a lot of these games has finally left because of sexual assault charges, or been accused of sexual assault. So I think with him gone, it allows Ubisoft to really expand on what they can do and what they should do, and I have a lot of hope for it.
Yeah,
surprisingly, never thought I'd say that.
Seriously. Yeah, like, do you think this game will be, I mean, they say it's open world, so do you think it's gonna be focused on like one location? Like, I mean, I feel like when I think of a Ubisoft game, I mean, I think of big sprawling open world, which is a open world. I mean, you have, if you look at Ghost Recon Breakpoint, if you look at all the Assassin's Creed games, well, I mean, this last one had two sections, but ultimately you're in England in Valhalla, Mortals, Phoenix Rising, all those games. It's like one big gigantic open world space, and you don't really go out elsewhere. But I feel like with Star Wars, it's like there's so much opportunity to have like multiple open worlds that could span different planets and stuff like that. But I mean, would it be better for them to contain this into one area, or should it expand outward further?
I mean, there's a way to do it in one area, I'm sure, depending on how the story is written and the characters evolve and the timeline that's going to take place within that story. But I feel like you need at least 3. I would think you would need 5 worlds. They don't have to be as big as AC Valhalla, but I think even half that size would be, for 5 different worlds, would be amazing. And I think you need that because Star Wars is about going to all these fantastical places within the galaxy and seeing the different cultures and structures of the land and the wildlife and agriculture and stuff like that. You know, the flora and fauna. You know, like Cloud City's in the sky. Like, it'd be cool to see, like, go to Cloud City and have that fully realized. That's a massive undertaking for sure. Or going to Coruscant, that's a massive undertaking. But as the type of game I want to see, you know, having a Division element to it would be nice. Like, that gunplay and the gun customization would be really awesome. Although I don't think there's so much customization within the Star Wars universe for the guns, but I think having that aspect, like, it'd be cool to be in the Clone Wars. And I know there's some cool, I was reading some of the Clone Wars books where you follow some of the major clone people. Actually, it's I think it's Delta Squad. Whatever, the squad that they did the Republic Commando, like, they have their own book series. And they go around and they go to Coruscant and do all these cool things and, you know, raid stuff and kill the bad aliens and things like that. And I would like to see something like that.
Yeah.
And that's a whole time that has been explored mostly through the series, the animated series, but I feel like it could take a whole new light. Or you could follow squads that, you know, we never even have been connected to, and you can have Jedi in there. You can play as a Jedi.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I wonder if they, I mean, because like the Division team, Ubisoft Massive, is like, best known for their tight. I mean, I almost wonder if this could be like kind of a successor to like the Star Wars 13 that we never got.
Yeah.
But it's now in an open world kind of space. But I'm also curious of like, because when I think of like the Division team, it's like they basically made Ghost Recon Breakpoint without vehicles and without like, traveling large spaces. It's all like centered in like cityscapes and things of that nature. So I mean, like in that sense, I mean, they could build out multiple of these like ground focus arenas that you go and explore and do missions and quests on that could take you to different I mean, if there was like 3 locations that were just like a little bit different, or not a little bit different, but like vastly different, that have like a lot to do in each area, that could be kind of cool to explore. I mean, I'm trying to think if, would they have lightsabers in here? Would you carry a lightsaber, or would it be more gun focus? Would we want that?
I would think they would need that, but okay. So maybe yes, maybe no. I say no because if you look at, so unless they're going to go back in the past, which they definitely could, because, Knights of the Old Republic, they went back in the past and got to explore a whole other timeline. But if we look at where we are right now in the Star Wars universe, there's like hardly any Jedi. There's like no Jedi, actually. So we don't know what the next movies are going to bring or what this TV series are going to bring. But right now there's like a handful of Jedi if we're going off of The Mandalorian. But then if we're going off of the movies, like there's like one Jedi.
Right.
So going forward, like I just don't see if we're in the new trilogy, I don't think there'll be Jedi. There's going to be, just kind of like the Western stuff, just guns and that's ships and things like that, which is fine. But if we go to Mandalorian or even before that, they're definitely going to be Jedi. Where they should be, like I don't know. Like the Star Wars stories are all over the place. But I feel like they could make the new greatest, best Knights of the Old Republic type game because it's full RPG. You have all the Jedi, you have all the troops and stuff with the laser guns and things and ship battles and all that, and that would be really cool. I just don't know where to place it. Like me personally, I want it to be in the Clone Wars. I think there's things in there that haven't been explored that could be explored.
Yeah.
But usually, I think the games take on like their own heroes and try to find a spot within the Star Wars universe that really hasn't been explored too much.
I'm curious about so The Division was a kind of a live service game. Well, it was a live service game in a sense. I don't feel like this should be that.
It should not. No.
Yeah. But I'm curious, knowing this, like, are they going to want? I mean, I feel like a lot of if Ubisoft doesn't make a live service game.
Well, define live service. You're talking about just getting consistently free updates.
It's hard now because like live service, right? Like the line for live service is blurred because it's like, I mean, technically Borderlands is a live service, but not really. The Division, I mean, when I think of a live service, I think it's always online. It's always co-op. It's consistently gets updates. There's a loot system, like a loot grind kind of system thing that comes out. Those kinds of things. And then there's a PvP aspect and stuff like that. Like those are some of the qualifications that I think of. So yeah. And I don't think it should be that.
AC Valhalla?
No.
There's
no multiplayer.
True. They just have
I mean
microtransactions.
They would have a multiplayer, but it'd be completely a separate kind of situation. Yeah, they just have the microtransactions. So it's something that keeps you coming back day after day. And there's not really like an end to it. Like, like with Destiny, it's like there's a loot grind there that exists for eternity, even after you beat all the story content that would keep you coming back to continue to progress up this invisible ladder that never ends.
Right.
And I don't want them to do that with this game. I feel like there should be like a beginning and an end and, have like a story. I mean, I could definitely see them doing something where I feel like a loot system could be kind of interesting because we've never seen really like an extensive loot system around like a Star Wars game. And it could be kind of cool to like have not only upgrades to like your lightsaber, like have a lightsaber with a bunch of different like abilities and stuff like that, but then just like the slew of guns that you can have at your disposal and then like abilities, like skills and abilities. could be cool to. I mean, there's a lot you can do with that, especially if like you have force powers. I mean, looking at just the subtle things that they did with Jedi Fallen Order, seeing somebody expand upon that. There's a lot that could be done there, but I feel like it should be more. I guess more like kind of how Borderlands released their content, in that they had this game that had a lot of stuff you can unlock and do. You had a story that was attached to it, and they brought out like 3 DLCs after that, or just like how The Witcher handled the stuff. Those kind of pieces where there's like extra content that will come out later on, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a live service aspect tied to it. And I don't think it needs to have. I think co-op is important. Like I really want them to do a co-op game. I don't think it needs to be a multiplayer game that's like PvP, but I think having a co-op component to it. Like I would love to be in a universe where I'm playing like Ghost Recon Breakpoint with my friends, but it's instead Star Wars in this massive ass world. That'd be really fun. I was looking at an article on the Washington Post, and they wrote an analysis on like what they want from Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game. And a couple of the things that they mentioned here was no loot grind, which we kind of just talked about there.
Yeah.
And then space travel and combat, not just hyperspace. So thought that was kind of interesting, but I'm afraid for them to do something like that where you do space travel and combat, because I don't want them to get too ambitious and like lose sight of a more. I mean, an open world game is already ambitious as it is. To add in like space travel and combat stuff like that, I feel like would just get to be a lot.
Yeah. So I was like, it could be like what was it? What was that game that's supposed to come out? The Good and Bad or whatever? I forgot what it's called.
Oh, Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil. It can get into that territory real fast.
Well, that's a game that I was talking to a friend of mine about the other day. That's one in that they are going to have multiple planets in that game, from what I understand. And I mean, it's a very ambitious game, but here we are. Like they've announced it like 2 or 3 years ago. We still haven't seen it come out yet. I think it's just taken forever to develop. So I'm afraid. And that's what people were saying about this game. Is like, we're probably not going to see this till 2023, which is like a freaking long time. Exactly. That's probably accurate, because I mean, they're just announcing it. Maybe that's because like there's thoughts that like now the exclusivity deal is broken, but maybe it's not broken yet, but they're starting to build towards when it does break, which is 2023. And then they're just going to open it up to more people. But I don't know. I like to see a lot of ground combat. Like I still want a game to give me like just the ability to drive pod racers around. Like I just thought those were really cool. Like that's the only thing that I really like. I just want a pod racer, man.
Right.
Like a pod racer game. Like I want Star Wars Squadrons, but with pod racers. But I don't know. But they mentioned like speeder bikes in this article, troop transports, things like that would be welcome to see.
Like being part of the war like that. There's just so much there that could be done and interesting, and getting in one of those troop transports and flying over, massive terrain and then landing, and it's just all out battle all of a sudden,
Yeah.
Stuff like that gets me really excited.
I mean, I feel like this game is definitely set up to where it could have the mechanics of like Ubisoft games, where it's like you raid bases and you drop in with like a group of people. Like I think of like how Mandalorian has this like small team of people that he always like recruits.
That'd be cool.
Who's that? I forgot that woman's name that he fought with in the first season. She appeared in the second season as well. Like he had her, and then slight spoiler, Boba Fett exists in the second season. But Boba Fett, like there's like all these things that are there. It's just like kind of like having this team of people that like you go with, and like you do these reconnaissance missions on these like Star Wars bases and stuff like that, and break in there and like kill out stormtroopers, and have to like steal like a freaking ATST or whatever the hell, or AT-AT or whatever, and like get out of there alive and do all these different missions that do all these different things. Like, I mean, there's a lot that can be done just like on the ground. Is there anything we don't want to, like, you don't want to see in this game? Like, it's like just knowing, having played Ubisoft games, I mean, they definitely have problems. Like, what are some tropes of Ubisoft that you're like, I don't want this bullshit, besides the obvious microtransaction?
Yeah, I don't want it to be like super campy, know. I want them to take this game seriously. Like I think a lot like Odyssey. I felt like the story was kind of archetypal, and then at the same time they just didn't. I felt like the story just didn't take. They just threw story in there, in my opinion. And then obviously the dialogue and how the actors acted, just it wasn't serious. And I wanted this serious game. Just staying away from that, we'll be doing pretty good.
We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of direction they can go with it, but I'm excited to see Star Wars branching out, and I mean, we're just getting so much Star Wars right now. But I mean, there's also so much lore that can be delved into that we just haven't seen much of yet. So the last thing I want to mention about this whole thing, because now that we don't have EA as like fully exclusive into the Star Wars universe anymore going forward, is an article that I saw on IGN or GameSpot that I thought was really interesting. And the feature was from Jordan Ramey, and they said that it's time for Star Wars games to get weird. And with LucasArts opening up its properties beyond EA, it's a great opportunity to take some risks with the license and allow indie developers to produce Star Wars-based content. And I was like, yes, that would be so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like, give some badass indie studio the ability to jump on this and make something happen. I think that would be absolutely amazing. Like, can you think of anybody right now that would jump out at you as like, this studio, this indie game studio should make a Star Wars game just based off of their pedigree of badass games?
There's a lot, but it's just so like a lot of them are stylized, you know.
But I think that'd be cool, you know. I mean, like, how good Clone Wars was,
right?
Like what they did with that, like animation stuff. It's like what could be done. I mean, I could see Don't Nod Entertainment took a stab at it and made something that was like, I mean, obviously not.
That'd be cool.
You know, tell me why or whatever, but like some kind of a little more like narrative, just like kind of walking simulator-ish, like story experience. That's a route they could take. I don't know. I'll think about that more. But
the guys who made Super Meat Boy.
Do what?
The guys who made Super Meat Boy.
Oh gosh, that would be interesting. What would that game be?
I know, right? Now I just feel like all these are too stylized, and I think Star Wars has like, there's definitely like an not interesting. Like I feel like they fit in a box, and they kind of have to stay there for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like, I can't see like Stardew Valley making a Star Wars game, or the guys who made Shovel Knight, or Firewatch guys, like a walking.
Actually, that would be really cool.
I don't know if it would.
Walking simulator, yeah, man. I mean, think of like, when
you think of Star Wars, like you think of lightsabers and laser guns.
But look at the Mandalorian, man.
Around.
The Mandalorian. But it's not walking. He's just like freaking walking in the freaking desert or riding a speeder bike for hours. It's like a freaking Western.
Yeah, but
like,
then he goes
doing his thing.
You know what? We need a Cuphead Star Wars game.
That'd be great, actually. Yeah, that'd be really, really good. I'm thinking studios more like
Don't Nod is definitely a good one.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of who's done a pretty good indie title that, I mean, they're not like the super tiny one, but they're gonna be something like they're like AA, I guess. You know, those kind of developers that aren't
CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, but I don't consider them anymore. Yeah, they're not that vibe. The first thing that comes to mind is the Deep Rock Galactic developers. Like that kind of group, like because they're indie, but they're also owned by like they got picked up by Xbox and stuff like that. Hell, I mean, imagine this. Like, what if freaking Ninja Theory did a really dark take on Star Wars?
Yeah, that would be sweet.